Ladies and gentlemen, you know him and love him as an actor, a raconteur, a man for all seasons. Here he is, Will Hutchins, back with us again. How you doing?
Fine. I'm usually introduced as a man who needs no introduction, and I don't get one. You gave me a great one. Gracias.
Well, we have talked about so many various different aspects of your career. But
career in quotes.
But I don't think I've ever asked you, was when you were starting out in the business, was there anyone that you looked up to?
Well, one of my early heroes was Alan Ladd. I thought he was so cool.
Oh, yeah.
And they were always saying how short he was and everything. Well, I went to his house once, and I didn't think of him as short. I met him. I just thought of him as Alan Ladd. But before that, a kid and I were walking home from high school one day, and here comes Alan Ladd on his horse in Griffith Park. And my buddy was dumbfounded. But I managed, howdy! I managed that. And he smiled and gave us a wave back. And boy, I'm telling you, I'll never forget that. You know, he had to use his wits. I remember one guy telling me that the spies were after him, and he hit him with his briefcase. And then he was mad at another guy, Richard Denning, who was pretty tall. He kicked him in the shins. You know, he used his wits.
Sure.
And, you know, I love Woody Allen. To me, he's just about the best director there is around. I mean, I just love his movies. And his favorite movie of all time, of all things, is Shane. And I just got such a kick when I read that he said that.
and wasn't Alan Ladd great in This Gun for Hire with Veronica Lake?
You know, my friend Tony Caruso, he was my boss for 5 years when I worked for the city of L.A. doing shows. And he was up for the part of Raven. He and Alan Ladd had gone to the Pasadena Playhouse together. They were buddies. And Tony Caruso was naturally a better a choice for Raven because Raven hair, you know.
Sure.
Ladd would, so they darkened Alan Ladd's hair for that movie. But Alan Ladd was a very insecure guy. You know, he really took his shortness to heart. You know, Cagney wasn't tall. Most movie stars in the 30s and 40s were not even 6 feet tall.
Right.
They acted tall. But
sure.
I've met people in person. They say, "I always thought you were shorter," and I said, "Well, I acted short." But most of these actors in the 30s and 40s acted very tall. You know, they of course they look great on the big screen.
Oh yeah, and you mentioned Woody Allen. Another one of his big influences is Bob Hope.
Oh yeah. And it's very apparent when you check it out. The way he just kind of muttered to himself and tried to talk himself out of things, and kid the evil guys, just kind of tried to kid him along and get him off the track,
right.
Trying to slit his throat or something.
Well, we're going to get serious here for a moment because I want to talk about
I'm not serious. I'm poorly. Oh well, go ahead.
A serious role. You played in Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Oh yeah.
The Star Juror was the name of the episode.
Yep. With Dean Jagger and Betty Field and a host of others. Gee, I had a wonderful agent, John Bennett. Gee, he got me that job. It just came out of left field. I was doing a play at the Horseshoe Theater, a 99-seat non-union theater. We were doing Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter. And he got me this audition. He was playing tennis with the producer, Norman Lloyd, one day.
Mm-hmm.
And Norman Lloyd, incidentally, is 103 years old now.
Oh, God bless him.
They had a tribute to him on TCM, and the guy still looks great. He's still sharp as heck, and he still has a great sense of humor. 103, amazing.
Wow.
Well, anyhow, he's playing tennis with Norman Lloyd, and he suggested me for a part on one of his shows, one of the Hitchcock shows. He and Jane Harrison produced the show. And so he got me an audition. So I went over there to his office at Universal. He sat me down with a script. He sat across me with a script, and we read through the whole script. I'd never done that before. It's usually you read a few sentences, and they say, thank you.
Right.
How do you get out of here? Same way it came in. But we read through the whole script, and I got the part. And I liked their system. It was an hour show, as were the shows I did at Warner Brothers. We shot them in 6 days. They on the other hand, rehearsed all day. blocking him with the cameraman right there.
Right.
And we just got a chance to get into the part without having to do it cold. And then we did the thing in 5 days. So that was a great experience. And I just loved doing that show. My favorite moment was I was supposed to be drunk.
Right.
And the guys on props gave me beer. And they said, here's your lunch. And they set them up there. And I took advantage of it. So I was really in the part by the time they got around to shooting. And then there was my ramshackle house there with my mom and
right.
sister and girlfriend or whatever. And I'm getting sloshed there. And so I drink one can and I squash it. Then I toss it over my shoulder. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you know. And it went across the room and went kerplunk right into the washing machine. And so I ad-libbed 2 points. Nowadays, I'd say 3 points.
Right, sure.
But that was one of my great moments in my, quote, career, unquote.
2 points.
I don't know what I'm being punished for, but the Lord is severe.
That's the way they're gonna fry me, Ma.
I don't know if this was your experience as well, but if I go out for a voiceover part, if
I'd give it to you right off the bat.
Oh, well, thanks. But if I do the audition, and if the casting director says to me, you know what, you're perfect. Are you going to be leaving the area anytime soon? Are you going to be sticking around? I know that I haven't got it.
That's showbiz speak.
Right. I always know. And if I go in and I do an audition and they don't say a word, they just sort of stroke their chin and say, thank you, then I probably did get it.
Yeah, some of the parts I thought I was a shoo-in for, I didn't get, and some of the ones I thought bombs away I got.
Right.
I remember I tried out for Hey Landlord. I did it for Sheldon Leonard. Boy, is he great in Lucky Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
Lad. In fact, he directed the pilot, and I auditioned for him, and he didn't laugh once. And I was trying to do all my Dick Van Dyke stuff because I thought they were trying to get another Dick Van Dyke. I'd done many pilots. I was like the king of the unsold pilot.
Right.
So I thought this was another bomb. Anyhow, I did my audition for him. He didn't even crack a smile. And so I said, I don't get that one. Well, eventually I did get it. But he was kind of cruel to me. I don't think he wanted me for the part especially. So I wasn't trying to kiss up to him or anything, but just for lack of anything to say, I told him, I love that scene in Lucky Jordan where he knocks you down, and then he kicks you in the head. He starts to kick you again, and the lady goes, ah! Don't! And he says, and the lad said, well, I knocked one more kick and he won't wake up with a headache. Sheldon Leonard got his eyes lit up and he said, yeah, it wasn't the kick that made that scene work. It was the way I jerked my head. That's what made the scene work. And the whole door opened up and we became kind of buddy-buddy after that.
Well, Hey Landlord, I've been watching it because it's on the internet.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, how can I get a hold of that?
It's
there's some shows I'm dying to see again that we did, and I haven't seen them since.
I think most of it, if not all of the shows, are up on YouTube.
YouTube? I can just dial Hey Landlord.
Yeah, yeah.
Do I have to put in the exclamation mark, or can I leave
No,
that?
I think just Hey Landlord, and you type in Hey Landlord and your name.
Okay.
And then they'll all come up. But this show is really way ahead of its time. It seems, reading up on it, that there was a sketch comedy troupe who was brought in to do bits.
That's right. They're from San Francisco. Yeah. They were much funnier than I.
Well, it was you and Sandy Barron in this.
Yeah, Sandy Barron. We were both born on May 5th. Not the same year, but that's kind of a coincidence. They didn't really want me for that part. I got the feeling. But NBC, I guess maybe saw the Paul Lynde show or something, and they pushed me, so I got the part. But Gary Marshall wrote an autobiography, and he came out with a quote not long before he died. He said, "Whenever I get too cocky about my shows like The Odd Couple and Mork and Mindy and Happy Days, I just reach into my wall and bring out a soiled, crumpled piece of paper that has the ratings. And I looked down there, and Hey Landlord was 99.
Oh, Mr. Allenhorn, what happened? You look as if you slept in your clothes all night.
That's because I slept in my clothes. When you pass out, you don't have time to put on fancy pajamas. That's Chuck.
That's Chuck.
Have you been with him all day?
All day? It's only 7:30 in the morning. What's the matter with you?
Woody, listen. Somewhere, there's a hired gunman out to get Chuck.
Hired gunman?
You're chuckling. A man's life is in danger. He's chuckling.
Oh, come on, Mr. Allenhorn. Who would ever hire anybody to kill Chuck?
Me.
After the show was canceled and everything, he and Sherry Belson, the other writer-producer, had their offices at Paramount. Well, one day I was doing something over across the street at these studios that you could rent the space and make your indie productions there. So I'm coming out of there. I just made a movie in Africa called Shangani Patrol. And there's a guy, these two guys up there in the white caps and uniforms putting up an ad for Shangani Patrol on the wall that faces out on the Melrose. And I yell up at the guy, "Hey, I'm in that movie." He says, "What's your name?" I said, "Will Hutchins." And I spelled it for him, and he wrote it in big red letters. And so I got such a kick out of thinking of Belson and Marshall coming out of Paramount on Rudolph Valentino Street on the Melrose and having to sing my name up there for 6 months. That was my revenge.
Well, there were some great actors in that and great comedians like Pamela Rogers.
Oh, Frank Albertson was on it, and right after that he won an Oscar, a supporting actor.
Right.
Who played my sister? They brought her in to pep up the ratings. Was Sally Field?
Yeah,
played my sister.
Yeah, she looked like she's the size of a peanut in that.
Well, she won an Oscar too.
Yeah.
Several others whose names I can't remember right offhand.
See, it's that touch of Hutch. That's what's helping them win those Oscars.
Yeah, touch of Hutch, folks. You can get it in westernclippings.com.
There it is. That's right.
Scroll down the yellow on the left there. You can get
I guess it was only a couple years after that you did that Love American Style, working with the great Bill Daly.
Yep.
And one of my favorites, and she passed away sadly last year, was Judy Carn.
Oh, yeah. I knew Judy pretty well. I did a Gunsmoke, and Burt Reynolds played the honest blacksmith. Or something.
Right.
So we got to be pretty good buddies. His big hero was Jonathan Winters.
Really? Oh, he was into Jonathan Winters.
The greatest. And he had the nerve. Jonathan Winters was great. He lived in Toluca Lake, and my wife worked in a knit shop there. And every once in a while, he'd wander in to the knit shop in his baseball cap and disrupt the whole place. He just start ad-libbing and improvising, and everybody thought that was great except the owner. He was disrupting. And so Babs knew how much I loved him. She said, "Would you mind talking to my husband?" He played Sugarfoot. Remember Sugarfoot? And he said he did. And so he called me, and she said, "Guess who's on the phone?" I said, "I don't know." And Jonathan Winters. And I was awestruck. I couldn't say a thing. Well, he ad-libbed, he improvised a whole routine about he was trying to sell me a car over the phone. So, anyhow, Burt Reynolds said that he went up to his house. He had a lot of guts and knocked on his door. And Jonathan ushered him in, and they became pals. Well, you look into Burt Reynolds' sense of humor, you can see a lot of Jonathan Winters' influence. But anyhow, that's how I got to know Judy Carn, because she was, I guess, married to Burt Reynolds.
We're all set. I got a cab waiting.
You will look after her, won't you?
From now on, we're going to look after each other.
Look, Will, I'm sorry about the punch.
Oh, it's okay, partner. Sure, you only thought you were protecting your own homestead. I respect a man for that. Come on, honey. Adios. So long.
Bye.
Bye.
I like doing that Love American Style a lot. I thought it was a terrific script. And I thought I was a lot funnier in that than I was in Hey Landlord. and we did it in like 2 days, and they had a big party afterwards. And I thought, geez, they must have spent a lot of money on this show because they had 2 or 3 shows an hour, and they have a party after each one. Woo!
Once again, our guest on the program today is actor Will Hutchins, and make sure to read his column, A Touch of Hutch, over at westernclippings.com. Will, obviously we've talked about Sugarfoot in the past. It's your biggest role, really, and I guess the role that defines you. But I wonder, I never asked you before, did you have a stunt double on Sugarfoot?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I wish I'd had them more often. I'd done about 6, 7 shows on the show, and Clint Walker one day came up to me on Cheyenne,
Yeah.
He said, Will, who's your stuntman? I said, stuntman? I don't have a stuntman. Well, you might want to look into that. And so suddenly I became a lot braver and a lot more agile.
Did you ride a horse before that or no?
Well, I thought I did. It's not like riding a bike.
Right.
When I was a kid, my dad took me to Mancos, Colorado. He was working as a cowboy. He was a dentist, but he always wanted to be a cowboy. He was a dentist, but he fell in love with the wide open spaces. So he got a job as a cowboy on a dude ranch in Mancos, Colorado, and he had me come back there in the summer. And there's a lot of riding and shooting. And I learned to shoot a 30-30 rifle and all that, and ride. And geez, I really became a pretty good. So I went back to L.A., and then years later I did Sugarfoot, and the horse knows. And the horse knew I didn't know what I was doing. And we had to do all sorts of fakery. One thing, I got on the horse, and I'd bounce up and down, and then the prop guys would run by with twigs and things to make it look as though I were riding. And
Sure.
use a step ladder. The horse knew. And he never did take a liking to me. He was too big for me, for one thing. His name was Sickle. So we struggled through that first year as best we could. And we got picked up, and I said, gee, I'd sure like a horse. Maybe I could ride it a little better. So they took pity on me, and they gave me Penny, who was my best friend on the lot.
Right.
He made me look a whole lot better than I was. He was half thoroughbred and half a quarter horse. And he was the smartest. He was smarter than I was. He was smarter than most of the suits there at Warner's, by the way. He was just a great horse.
You shot that on the Warner's lot, didn't you?
Yeah, we didn't go on location once, but luckily we had a lot of stock footage. Errol Flynn or Randolph Scott. So I'd be in the back lot there. It was very cramped. We did all our shows there. And you had to say your lines between explosions because there are a lot of shows going on there.
Right.
One time that I had 2 or 3 head of cattle I was supposed to be controlling, and they got on hand. I raced after them, and we ended up riding down the main street of the Western Street during a Maverick shot. So I got into a Maverick shot like Alfred Hitchcock would.
I was going to ask if you ever explored the lot while you were there.
Oh, all the time. In fact, Babs and I worked at NBC years later, and we went to vote that day. I think we voted at Warner Brothers. I think they opened that up to voting. So I took her out in the back lot and showed her where Cagney got killed in the Roaring '20s and all that stuff. She got a big kick out of it, and I got just as big a kick. All that history and lore that went on there.
Yeah. I'm glad that's still standing to some degree because the MGM lot they got rid of, and that's
They did a Debbie Reynolds on that one.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah, it's terrible.
It's sad, a lot of that history, and God bless her. Debbie Reynolds tried to preserve as much of it as she could. But in Hollywood now, they don't really have an appreciation for their own history.
They're too young for the most part. There's this guy, I don't know if I told you about, I probably told you this stuff before, but once in L.A., years after Sugarfoot, a guy called me. Now I keep in touch with him. A lawyer from out this way, and he said he and his buddy wrote a script where Sugarfoot, Bronco, and Cheyenne all reunite during the time of Teddy Roosevelt. And so he submitted it to Warner Brothers at the time, and they didn't know who the heck he was talking about. But I had a great title. Cheyenne, Bronco, and Sugarfoot get hip replacements. But that would have been fun. In fact, I talked to Clint once in a while on the phone. Geez, what a great guy. You're not supposed to have heroes.
Right.
But if I had one, it would be Clint Walker. He's just the greatest guy. And we did one show together, the three of us, duel at Judas Basin, Cheyenne, Bronco, and Sugarfoot, and we all got together on that one show. And I said, wasn't that a great show? And he says, yep, I wouldn't mind doing another one. Well, I got a lawyer that's working on it.
Well, Will, I want to thank you once again for taking some time out to chat with us as we ramble through your career. We hit all different projects in a half hour.
I'm such a ham talking about myself. Let's talk about you. Let me talk about you. Let's talk about you. Tell me, what did you think of my last performance?
I have to tell you, I've been working on my Will Hutchins imitation.
Oh, boy. I never had anybody do that.
So a typical Sugarfoot scene.
You're the only guy in the world that can claim that, I think.
Well, yeah, until I do it. Let's see. And so, a guy would say, you can't use that gun, Sugarfoot. That's almost like William Conrad. Yeah. You can't use that gun. And then Sugarfoot would say, well, I may not have what it takes to use this gun, but I study law, and I'm studying to be an attorney in a small town. I'm working on it.
You're great. Now, you got to send me that. You're going to send it, right?
Sure.
Oh, boy. Everybody's going to get that one, I can tell you.
I'll be the Rich Little of Will Hutchins imitations.
Okay.
All right. Well, you take care. It's always great talking to you, and I'm sure we'll do it again real soon.
Well, you're my idol of the airwaves.
Well, thanks. Hey, and give my love to Babs, as always.
I sure will if she's talking to me.
Okay. All right. So long.
Adios, amigo.
There he goes.
Yee-haw! Get him up.